Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining the next episode of the Immergence Show. Today we're going to talk about a very exciting topic that is talked about a lot with what happened with OpenAI. The topic is artificial general intelligence, AGI. And we're going to go through what it is, how it's different from the existing AI, and how it impacts businesses, brands, and individuals, and how you can all prepare for this revolution. It's very exciting to me to have this conversation with my co-host Philip. I'm a creative technologist, and he's a data scientist and AI expert. So we're going to talk about different kind of perspectives on this topic. And I would love you guys to contribute in this conversation by commenting, and we will definitely address any questions that you guys may have. And it's a very complex topic, and it may take us a few sessions to even cover it. But this session is going to be a starting point and more high level. So be ready to be blown away. It's very exciting. And first, I'm going to talk about what happened that this conversation of AGI became so popular and important. We all heard about what happened with OpenAI. So back in May, OpenAI published a paper that, or a blog that was basically talking about how these AI programs can now do mathematical reasoning with process supervision. And then we saw how OpenAI board suddenly and dramatically fires them. And that was kind of interesting. And then we saw a letter was sent to Reuters, and that was about this new project or newly heard project called QStar or Qualia that has, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, that has different implications, which leads to AGI. And the other part was that with the with the developer conference that OpenAI had and the launch of these autonomous agents, that was another sign of getting closer to AGI through OpenAI. So all of these are kind of what's happening in this regard. I would love Philip to tell us a little bit more about this QStar project and how is it different from the existing AI, and then we'll go deeper into what is AGI and how it impacts us.
Yes, QStar. First of all, this is all speculative. There's a lot of discussions, but then nothing officially has actually come out from OpenAI saying definitively what it is. So a lot of eyes have been on this to deduce what it could be, but a prevailing theory, a probable one based on papers that they published this past summer, as well as the general direction and trends towards AI, is a way of combining the power of AlphaGo like systems with large language models. Now, if you don't recall exactly what AlphaGo is, this is a project by DeepMind, a group within Google, to basically defeat and beat the best human players of Go. We accomplished this some years ago with chess. Everybody remembers that with IBM. But Go, which is a more Asian game from the East, is more complicated in different ways, making it a tougher challenge for AI to beat. The way that AlphaGo's team was able to do this was not by training on existing models, on existing players and the moves and learning from that. Rather, it was creating a system by which the AIs themselves would play against each other and compete with each other. And it worked, and it surpassed the best Go players in the world by a wide margin. Now, large language models, they don't operate like this. They're limited by the data sets that they were trained on. So speculation is that this QStar, one speculation is that it is a way of synthetically generating, tagging this training data, and perhaps a way for the models to prompt and play off of each other, so that they can then grow and expand, and not just on the knowledge that we humans already have, but then to itself create new models that is new, right? And to do this with a large language model is imaginative, is huge.
So what was very special about QStar project is solving math.
Right.
Traditionally we have been using these LLMs for a lot of language related challenges, but when it gets to math, it's a lot more complicated, and it is even more impactful because now you can solve cryptography. You can solve various types of science that wasn't necessarily possible before.
Now, to be clear, so these are again all speculations, but if they actually turn out to be what it is, then the capabilities will be that perhaps these models could figure out a higher math that we don't yet possess. Because right now we have assumptions that cryptography and things like this are safe because, according to what we know in mathematics, there are one-way functions. But it is very possible that there is a higher mathematics that is able to reverse that an AI may be able to deduce that we yet don't. But again, this is another speculation of what QStar may be.
And again, to simplify what we're talking about, by cryptography, all this encryption, like a lot of our messages, like if you're using any of the messaging platforms that are secure, you see like end-to-end encryption, all those things, or even like the passwords, everything like that will be impacted. So let's take a step back and now talk about what is AGI. So AGI it's another AI, but it has the generalized human cognitive ability. It can learn and it can apply its intelligence to a wide variety of tasks. So I'm going to talk about how it applies in different areas. So let's talk about learning. With the existing AI, or what's so-called narrow AI, we're very specifically training AI for a very specific application or use case. And it requires extensive training and large data set. It's time consuming. You have to wait for it to be done, and you have to improve it and all of that. So there's a lot of human intervention. What with AGI, you're gonna make all sorts of like intellectual tasks done that a human can do, and it can basically do it without retraining. It can go from one domain to the other and adapt to the new tasks without our intervention. And that's amazing. That's huge. Philip, do you want to add anything to this learning and adaptability of AGI?
Yeah, because that is very much a limitation of large language models, definitely. And this is where these systems like AlphaGo, they try to make improvements in. Because you may think that, oh, great, an AI system is not able to do perhaps math at a middle school or high school level. Classical computing can already do that. But what the difference is, classical computer doesn't understand the way that we understand what the reasoning is. And the posit is that perhaps these systems, they can. Because right now, if you go to ChatGPT and you prompt it with a logical question, perhaps you could say something like, if Sam, runs faster than, Samantha, and then, John runs faster than Samantha, then, who ran fastest, or something like this, like a logical, kind of question. What ChatGPT is going to return is the most probable outcome from those strings of text. It's not actually going to analyze the logic behind it. So it may come up with the right answer sometimes, but that's just because the data set that it's trained on has that probability built in.
Well, let me add something here. Most, based on what I heard, that ChatGPT and most of the LLMs are about looking at these data sets that they had and predicting what's the next word that will go after the previous word. So, and that is not like necessarily, so when you ask a question, it's starting to put the words together and make up an answer for you that may not logically be the answer to you. It's just how majority of the data that it has looked at is sorted. So that is the problem. But now we're talking about actual learning, actual analyzing.
Right, that's the one component of it too, because not only do we need to actually make logical reasoning, but that logical reasoning needs to be stored someplace. We have working memory, right? A lot of what we think and imagine is within that space, and a system like this would also need to have something like that. Right now, if you train a model, it's static. Whatever when you interact with ChatGPT, it's not, if you ask it something and then you ask it the same thing again, it will repeat the process of looking for that information. It's not going to be like us, that we would actually remember and incorporate that into our knowledge base. And
but I think they have some level of short memory, right?
It needs to be retrained again. So that's the point. So another speculation what this Q star may be is also an expansion on the order of how revolutionary transformers were initially in 2017 for generating large language models in the first place. So something that would dynamically train and adapt to the data set and response in real time. So we wouldn't have to actually train the model. Q star could be any one of these things. And any one of these things is a big step towards, AGI. And AGI really is not the implementation of any one of these things. It's the implementation of all of these things, together, plus, other things that are still actively in research.
Okay, so let me continue. How is AGI different from the narrow AI? So other than the learning, the other part is about problem solving and creativity. If you have tried Midjourney or any of these creative tools, you know that after some point of prompts, you're gonna kind of hit the wall with the outcomes that you get. And so this limitation of creativity and problem solving is a huge challenge of the existing AI. However, we see in AGI that it can have human-like creativity. It can solve problems. It can generate innovative solutions in various aspects. So that's another mind-blowing aspect. The other element is about contextual understanding and decision-making. So again, right now, the existing AI is not really like, when you prompt it, you should give it some context. But again, that context is just going to help it to like search through the data and find the data that can be more closer to your answer. It's not really analyzing it. But with this AGI, we're going to have a comprehensive analysis and understanding similar to human judgment, like putting every information together, looking at different aspects, looking at the nuances and making a decision. So that's amazing and huge in decision making. The other part is about cross-domain expertise. Again, a lot of these AIs that we currently have are limited to the domain that they have been trained and the data set that they have been trained on. But with AGI, we're going to have multiple domains information coming through, and it's going to give us a holistic and synergistic approach to challenges. So it's not going to just look at one data set and one information. And that's, again, super amazing. So do you want to add anything to anything I mentioned so far?
Yeah, I think, a lot of things that's like when we come across a complex model, any human, generally what we do is we break that problem apart into small components and solve those. Then we deduce and reason our way up to the higher, to the ultimate solution, or collaborate with other people and put things together. AI systems not able to do that yet. For example, ChatGPT, the way that I utilize it a lot is not by going in with my final need and ask it, what that is, because I know, first of all, it can't reason, and second, we need to break it apart into those smaller components and ask it those smaller things, and also look at it skeptically, right? Because we know that it can make mistakes a lot of times, right? So I think it is a tool, and it is a tool, I think, that it's
But
very
with
important.
AGI, you don't have to do that. With AGI, you don't have to break down the problem. You don't have to like analyze to see if it's necessarily the correct answer or it's just a sort of words that they put together. It's all going to be analyzed holistically. So that's very interesting.
Right.
And
But
then, yeah, go ahead.
yes, but at the same time, we shouldn't become complacent, right, to all those answers, because a big part of what it means to be human is to contribute and to
Yeah, we will get to how human can add value, but let's again talk about how AGI is different from narrow AI. The other part is about natural language understanding and communication. If you ever talk to chatbots, which most of you probably have, you feel that robotic interaction that it just has like a series of questions answering, and this type of chatbots, even ChatGPT, still pretty much are very robotic and limited, and struggle with like a nuanced, context-rich type of information. But when we have AGI, we're going to actually have a full holistic understanding. They can understand sophistication of, the challenges that we're describing, and it can be great in interaction with customers or teams or other human, basically. And you almost can't recognize you're talking to a bot or AI. So again, mind blowing. The other part is about autonomy. That is very important. Again, this human intervention is a big restriction of the existing narrow AI. With AGI, we're going to have it to independently learn and update itself. I even heard that it can create, like, basically, AGI is going to have hardware, software, and AI created to accomplish its tasks. So if you say I have a problem with my production, the AGI eventually will be able to go analyze what type of data it needs to make the decision to solve the problem, and how it can generate this data, what type of AI model it needs to create, what type of language it needs to program, and if that programming language doesn't exist, it can create it. What type of hardware you need for your production to produce the data, to analyze and solve the problem, and literally design the whole production and think of all the challenges. And I'm going to get into like how it impacts businesses in the specifics, but it's again mind-blowing that it can create hardware, software, and AI to solve your problems. And obviously we're not there yet. And the other part that is very interesting is the scalability. Again, the existing AI is very limited, and it's dependent on us. It's dependent on us to go in and solve problems, to train it, to improve it, to do all that. But with AGI, it's not going to wait for us. It's going to real time solve, improve the challenges, and evolve. So in summary, AGI is going to be a lot more versatile, adaptable, and intelligent to the level of human or maybe higher. And from the business perspective, you can, instead of having like 10 or 100 of AI tools, you're going to have one integrated AGI system, which solves for a wide range of functions and challenges that you may have. And we're going to get deeper into that in a second. But Philip, do you want to add anything in the differences between AGI and narrow AI?
Yeah, I think we will definitely notice a progression towards it, from narrow to AGI as it comes forth. because initially, as we know, these systems, even as they are right now, are very computationally intensive, and that's noticeable. But as they grow, of course, these models become a lot more efficient. Um, and you can see right now they utilize our existing knowledge base, our existing methodologies, our existing hardware. But as AGI, the path towards AGI moves forward, we will see that perhaps these models themselves will find that there's a better way for them to self improve. Perhaps Python is not necessarily the best programming language, for this, and AI may propose and even implement its own. Perhaps Linux is not the best operating system for it to run on, and it will make its own kernel and expand from that. Perhaps NVIDIA chips or GPUs like systems is not the best hardware platform that's most efficient for it to cognate. Then it may design its own silicon and transfer itself to that. That may be more efficient over time. If you think about it, our brains operates in quadrillions of operations per second, consuming less power than, or almost as much power as a light bulb. Whereas even the most computationally intensive computer in the world consumes orders and orders of magnitudes more than that. AGI eventually will need to get to the point of efficiency that we are. But in all these things will be noticeable. The speed of which may be differentially perceptible to different people, but we will notice these things.
And to again further simplify what AGI is and how is it different from narrow AI, before I go into how it impacts businesses and brands, think of hiring. If you hire an intern, a junior level intern, and that person probably needs to be trained and given past information about your business, you need to give them access, you need to give them training and meeting with other folks in the company, and it takes like some time to get up to speed, the learning curve. And if they're smart, that would be shorter, obviously. But then after this learning curve, you can start asking questions to help you solve problems in your business. But what that intern is going to do typically is referring back to the data that you provided, to the information that you shared with them, and be limited to that. They're not necessarily go beyond your expectation and reinvent a lot of things. They're going to be very narrowly scoped on what they do. And your expectation is going to be very specific to what that skill is and what that specialty is that you hired the intern for, and the data that you fed to them. Now, if you think of the AGI instead is like hiring like an architect or a principal level hire that you are bringing, and you are having, or even a consultant, a super senior consultant, that you have a serious problem in your business, you bring them on, and you will discuss the challenge. You may, not necessarily provide everything, but you describe your problem, and from there on, they say, thank you, I will get back to you. They go in and figure it all out on their own. They go and reach out to the right people to get the right information. They go create processes that may not existed before in your company. They go look up documentation. They go contact vendors. They go even build something and create something that you may not even ask them, have never asked them for. They're just gonna do all of that proactively without your specific prompt on their own. And then they schedule a meeting with you and say, here is your solution. Here is what we need. And this is what I have done. This is what I built. and these are the type of resources in your company that we need to get this done. These are the resources that you don't have in your company and we need to bring in to get this done, and let's like make it happen. Or they already have solved the problem or completely solved the problem and they're just reporting it back to you. That's the level of intelligence and self-sufficiency that we're talking about. That, again, some consultants, if you think about it, again, this example, sometimes they completely take over a whole function of a department within a company, to the point that you may need to downsize your company, um, because the problems that these departments have been solving over time with so much cost and friction, now it's been solved with much faster and cheaper approach. So that's exactly how AGI is going to come in. It's going to blow your mind and revolutionize how you're doing business, and of course on the personal level too. But I hope this example helps to kind of further clarify what AGI is compared to narrow AI. Philip, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I think it's important to note that these are hypotheticals that of perhaps what it could be like, and we in between until we get to that point. I see the transition, these systems, the roles that they fill, be much more of a filler in between. They
like hiring other type of
facilitate, right? They will facilitate communications between us, and of course, we will touch into this later. But there will be other societal shifts required to for our own prosperity to keep going forward. But as a developer myself, I could see like one conundrum a lot that happens in a lot of startup when it comes to hiring is, let's say you have a senior developer on the team that's performing at a level of 6, and they're cracking out code, they're solving problems, they're documenting, they're being efficient, they're coding, they're doing what they love to do. But let's say that the company's taking on a project that needs effort at a level of 12. Now the company has the option of hiring another senior level developer. Usually that takes time, because to find somebody that experience level with those necessary requirements is intensive. Perhaps AI can help with that in some way by recruiting, or it can choose to instead hire maybe 4 junior level developers. Now, a problem that may happen is that for a lot of times, the senior developer would need to mentor and nurture these junior developers as they grow. Oftentimes taking up to 6 months so that they can actually start contributing useful code. Now, what could happen is an AI system like this could facilitate the role of the developer so that they can keep doing what they love to do, what they originally were hired to do, coding and all that, but also be able to mentor and grow, and at the same time giving the tools for the junior developers to be more efficient. Because oftentimes otherwise they may feel burned out or feel their roles has shifted. But in any case, I think the role is really facilitating and really helping and augmenting how we interact and produce.
Awesome. So before I get into how it impacts brands and businesses, I would love our audience to know that they can use the comment section to communicate with us, whatever platform you're tuning into this show. We're going to see your comments. So feel free to comment with any question or comments. Now I'm going to talk about how it's going to impact brands and businesses. So first thing is about customer understanding. There are companies like Amazon that always say customer first. And, it's very important to tune into what customer wants, because it will save us a lot of, back and forth and, overproduction and so on. But with the existing AI or with existing tools that we had, we could only look at different actions of the customer at any point. We will analyze social media and make some predictions. We could analyze the purchase history of the customer and recommend them more of the product that they purchased before, and stuff like that. So we were very much like doing one-off specialized analysis. But when we're talking about AGI, we can have a holistic, comprehensive understanding of each customer. And then we can highly personalize the solutions, and it could be anywhere from marketing campaigns to product development to production and everything to each individual customer needs and wants. So that's again super valuable for brands. The other part is about campaigns, like the marketing campaigns. We usually like do a marketing campaign, and then we see the results, and then we analyze the results, and then go do another one to do better. But with AGI, we can autonomously adjust the marketing campaigns in real time. So when we see the market dynamics, we see the consumer behaviors, and any external events that are happening in that time of the campaign, we can the AGI can autonomously adapt to those changes and change the campaign. So that's again a super efficient way of doing it, and we're going to see much better ROIs. The other part is about production and supply chain, which is one of the most cost-intensive part of the business. So prediction has been a big part of AI that has been helping us for forecasting, prediction, and all that. But with this AGI, based on what I explained, we can look at various factors and have a holistic understanding of circumstances. And then based on those holistic understanding, we can autonomously reconfigure the supply chain in real time. So that makes the strategic decisions a lot better. We can change the supplier, alter transportation routes, adjust the production schedule, do all sorts of things real time as the challenges come in. And also AGI can predict, that's the mind-blowing part again, it can predict certain challenges like pandemic or natural disasters by looking at those various factors and data sets. So that will significantly help businesses, which is, again, really remarkable. The other part that AGI can help businesses and brands is about production lines. A lot of times our production processes are not necessarily optimized. There's a lot of challenges. I used to do product quality, and so I know a lot of challenges that go with production processes. And there's a lot of things that we can learn and adapt in real time to reduce the waste and improve the efficiency. So all of that is going to be possible with AGIs because they can look at various factors real time and adapt and adjust. The other part is about product development and design. With the existing AI, we could use it to focus on consumer trends and narrowly analyze the consumer trends and forecast how we can tackle that and how we can innovate on that. And then separately, we had to go and look at environmental impact and then analyze that. And then go separately look at material science and so on. So now with AGIs, we can look at all of this at the same time and integrate these insights and innovate the product design in ways that were not possible before. We can also autonomously, with AGI, we can autonomously prototype and test all these innovative ideas, which is, again, amazing to have different iteration of the product and have all of this testing all done through this artificial general intelligence, and not necessarily having to go in as with human intervention, and it can all be done by this program. Another very important factor in business is the customer interaction, right? The customer service experiences. We already see that chatbots have been super helpful, and even with this narrow AI that we have, we can create a data set of all the questions that could be asked and provide all the information, and that already has revolutionized customer service. But we also see that the challenge with these narrow AI is that they're just addressing that specific problem that you're giving them at that moment. They're not necessarily, again, like holistically analyzing the customer. But with this AGI, we're going to have this highly personalized approach, because AGI can look at all interaction of your customer, all of the data that has ever been created with your customer, and then provide very personalized answer and solution to that specific customer, which is going to be a lot better. And even like on the emotional level, they can personalize to the emotion that the customer is experiencing and all of that. The other part is about the complex problem solving. Again, all these judgments that even within the customer service, like when you call a customer service or customer support, you will see that sometimes the first operator cannot necessarily solve your problems. And you have to talk to the supervisor. And that's the challenge in judgment and kind of like the level of complexity of problems that they can handle. Usually the first operator is limited to certain information that they can address. They cannot really look at everything in the company. And they can't necessarily know the history of you. You have to spend so much time and add friction to explain who you are, what your history has been, blah, blah, blah. And they hardly make those connections. But now imagine like the experience being like you call in and they immediately know who you are. They know your name, they know your background, they know what you have done. It's like when you go to, like, let's say a spa or doctor that has known you for a very long time. That's feeling of care and serving that you're going to feel is going to be amazing. And then they're going to solve the problem very unique to your specific needs. So again, that level of judgment and personalization hasn't been possible even for a human, because there's only so many people this customer support folks can remember, and it's just in a scale is not going to be possible. The other part is about business decisions. Even as a CEO or executive of a company, there's only so much data that you can analyze. And yes, we can use different type of tools that can help us analyze data, and those are the narrow AIs that we had, and read the reports and try to put all this together. But with AGI, you're going to have all of this taken care of. They can specifically address the challenges and forecast and foresee the opportunities and threats for your business, tell you the risk and suggest ways to solve the risk, and kind of look at all this array of factors and interdependencies that wasn't possible before. So do you want to add anything before I go further in this?
No, I think you really touched on it, Nico. There's a lot of potential across different markets and different ways of doing this. That this would be very innovative and disruptive, right?
Yeah. And you talked about human resources and how these AI tools have been helping us. They're basically augmented our capabilities. Even with this short period of time that we had ChatGPT, we have seen the revolution in what every individual can do. We see how a lot of the startups have grown. A lot of the time, a lot of startups and innovative ideas couldn't take off because they had to spend a lot of time doing friction tasks that would not be possible with few people. But we already see that even narrow AI has revolutionized everything. But now, if you talk about AGI, AGI is going to help you hire the right candidate, like identify exactly who you need by looking at holistically how they have been. Like, again, think of like you're going to hire someone, let's say, to do the marketing. They're going to look at all type of available candidates, and AGI is going to basically analyze their backgrounds, look at everything they have on internet, do everything that you would be doing if all you were doing was recruiting, and then basically analyze this. And then after you interview and hire them, then the AGI can help you to very personalized way train and manage this employee. Again, that's another big challenge that I experience and a lot of business owners experience is like what we train and the way like we get, it takes so long to get to know the person, what their specific needs and wants are, what the gaps are, how we can provide them the resources to have the highest outcome. But that's very challenging because it takes time to analyze all that data from the person. Now with AGI, we can get all of that done a lot faster and better. And that helps both the company and that individual because they can also accomplish a lot more and improve and grow in their career trajectories in a way that is satisfying. Now, the other part is about sustainability. That's a very, very important topic. We have been talking about it in the Fashion DAO, and it's so important to us. With sustainability, we see that there's so many various factors that go into creating a product that is sustainable. You have to look at the entire life cycle of the product. You have to take into account the complex factors like the supply chain logistics, the material sourcing, end of life of the product. And so usually it's a very challenging task for a company, and they don't necessarily have all the resources in place to analyze all this data and looking at different aspects. But again, with AGI, we will have the opportunity to analyze and optimize the whole life cycle for sustainability. So that's super exciting. I cannot wait. But in summary, the way AGI is going to impact a business is that it can understand, learn, adapt, and autonomously make decisions in a broad range of contexts, and then offer you higher level of efficiency, innovation, and customer engagement that hasn't been possible before. So that's how basically AGI impacts our businesses. I'm going to talk about how we can prepare for AGI, whether you're a business or individual, how we can prepare for this revolution. And there's so many other topics we can cover as well. Like if you think about like the ethics and, like there was a big challenge, like question, like, is OpenAI the right company to be developing something like this? Or who is the right what is the right company? Or what government should be behind it? And all of these questions are, around for us to think about. But more specifically in this conversation, we want to talk about the high level of what it is and how it impacts you and how you can high level prepare. And we can go deeper into it in the next conversations. Again, if you guys have any comments or questions, feel free to add it in the comment section. And then we're going to go deeper into how we can prepare. So do you have anything to ask so far?
I'd like to expand a bit more on personal preparation, and I think what some important things it's important for us to do together in order to smooth this transition. But I think, Nico, if you'd like to elaborate.
Yeah, I want to start about the business, and then we talk about the individuals at the end, on the high note. So in terms of business, first thing is about learning and training. So attending conversations like this is super helpful. Like just keeping yourself updated and keeping your team and business and workforce updated on what's happening. So if you need to take on courses or listen to videos, YouTube, and so on, stuff like that is going to prepare you and your team for this revolution. And then the other part is about developing the skills. Do you think that your team and your company has the in-house AI expertise, or do you need to outsource that? I recommend, all businesses to kind of start developing that in-house because you will have a lot more control. Maybe you don't need to necessarily create all of these tools yourself, but you need to be able to use them. And starting to use narrow AI, this existing AI that we have, and all these autonomous agents and all these tools that are available from different vendors, is a good starting point to smooth the transition towards AGI. So start using them, start incorporating them into your business, and encourage your team to use them, because even now that we're not that far, like we're kind of far from that full AGI, we can see huge advancement in what we're doing. The other part is about the ethical part, which we probably don't have time to get into it, but thinking about how is the privacy is going to look like, how is the transparency going to look like, fairness, what does that mean? Like we talked about how it can impact cryptography, how it can impact every aspect of the business. What are we going to do about it? And you can engage in this conversation. You can attend this type of conversation and try to express your opinions, and start creating policies for your own company for the ethical use of AI. We've seen some companies that banned ChatGPT, and like it could be good or bad. In some ways we see that privacy has not been respected. In some ways, it can be used depending on what tier you're using. So starting to kind of process these rather than avoiding it and leaving it for later is very important before it takes over everything. The other part is about kind of looking at the risks. What are the risks for your specific business, for your workforce, and everything that is going to be impacted based on what we talked about? How are you going to prepare for that? Basically, it's going to disrupt a lot of businesses, and in a good way, and maybe in not so good ways. So starting to think about these kind of potential risks and having contingency plans will really help. And then the other part, for the development of AGI, you probably need to collaborate with other consultants, technology leaders, and innovative startups, because it's a very complex thing. Before it becomes simple, it's going to be very challenging. And it would be helpful for you to start building this partnership and kind of establishing those relationships. And then there are also a lot of improvements coming from academia. So if you are a big corporation, you can join or sponsor this academic research and contribute to the responsible development of AGI. We don't have to necessarily stay outside of it until it comes and takes over everything. We can be proactive and take steps on that front. So that's more about what you can do on the business level. And on the individual level, it's going to also impact us. First thing that always comes to mind is that it's going to take over our jobs, and can be true if you really think about everything I mentioned about possibilities of AGI. I was even asking myself, like, so what am I going to do? Like, what are the things that we really need human for? On one hand, human will have more free time to do more of the things that they're passionate about, and that's very promising, and makes me happy to know that it will reduce a lot of friction from our lives, and we can focus on things that matter to us. And on the other hand, it could be kind of taking over jobs that people have been counting on. And so what are some of the jobs that you can think of based on what AGI can do that has less risk of being taken over? So, for example, there have been so many reports about like what jobs can last longer and what jobs are already going away. Customer service, for example, is already going away in so many ways. but any part, you need more like communication, empathy, and teamwork. It's going to take longer to go away, and that's I mean, eventually maybe we don't need any of these, and AGI can really take over. But people are still going to prefer to interact with human in several direction. So, and a lot of times it's augmenting us. Like even when internet came, and a lot of the resources, like when you go to a doctor, they have their computer open and they're looking things up as they speak to you. So, and a lot of doctors are even like starting to use ChatGPT in with the ways that can augment them and help them address the questions. Doctors don't necessarily have the answer to everything, and kind of being prepared for all sorts of emotional intelligence situation. That's where they get help and augment themselves with these technologies. So we can focus more on areas that we can have it be useful for a longer time. And soft skills, creative and critical thinking, and all those things are areas that are harder to achieve with AI. And so those are the areas that you guys can develop yourself more and be prepared, and be more valuable for the workforce. And the other part is obviously is that you should be open and flexible. It's going to impact your personal life, it's going to impact your work, and the whole world is going to be impacted by it. So starting to embracing this change is going to help you to have a better situation. And obviously there's going to be ethical and responsible conversation. Again, similar to businesses, we want to get involved into this conversation, voice our concerns, and analyze like what are we concerned about, and kind of bring up this to the decision makers. And so there is a lot of different interesting aspects to look at on the personal level. But I would say like the learning and staying on top of it is very, very important. So Philip, what are your thoughts? How do you think people can prepare on the individual level?
I mean, on the individual level, I mean, you touched on it, greatly. I think what I'm more concerned about is more about adaptation on a whole society type of scale, right? How can we ensure that
Like government
institutions, but how can we ensure that people have the opportunities at their capability? The last thing we want is for AI to become rampant and have things accumulate, upwards, concentrating more, because our economy is driven by the purchasing power of the vast majority of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
We need to keep that going. So the distribution of resources needs to also be adapted, in this new emergent way. So my biggest concern is really the speed at which people take on new skills and their relevance, right? There's a lot of parallels being drawn to this and the agricultural revolution, where before that 90% of people worked in farms, and now today less than 3% do. Sure, that may happen. Our certain jobs, will definitely not exist, in the future that do today. But at the same time, the speed at which this occurs is what I'm most concerned about. Think about, you go to school, get a bachelor's degree, start with something. By the end, when you graduate, that is no longer relevant at all. That's a very plausible future. So I think that
that's a very interesting point. So our education system needs to adapt to what's happening.
But I think importantly also the ability to support individuals towards that, because not everybody has that capability. So I think it's paramount that our support system also adapts towards that, and we can definitely get into that discussion more as we progress, as we talk about this more.
Awesome. Yes. And just to wrap it up and connect the dots of like what happened in OpenAI. So as you heard, this AGI is revolutionary. It's kind of like when internet first came around. It can it is going to impact every aspect of our lives. And that's why it's speculated that Sam was fired because he did not necessarily communicate to the board what was happening, how much progress has been made within OpenAI, and how closer we are with AGI. Now, we see the comments from Elon Musk and others, other competitors that kind of make fun of this and say that we're still very far from AGI, and these are nothing close to AGI. So we have to take everything with a grain of salt. We can, kind of listen to all aspects and all sides, and hopefully we will hear more information, more clearly from OpenAI, and hopefully we see more responsible answers and actions. Again, what is the right company? Which company could be the one creating all of this? What ethics are going through it? And this new board of OpenAI, for example, is it the right board to make decision? As far as I heard, there's no woman or non-binary in that board. If almost half of the population are women, how are you making decision for something so revolutionary without existence of other genders and other opinions? So there's a lot of ethical conversation that we can get into, but this was just a starting point and a high-level conversation of introducing you to the concept of artificial general intelligence and what went on OpenAI, and hopefully we'll see more information, and we still have time to prepare. So do some research, do some learning and analysis, and come back again to our show next week. We'll go deeper into different conversation. We do this every Tuesday at 11 a.m. PST, 2 p.m. EST, and we talk about emerging tech and immersive experiences. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we look forward to hearing from you all. Thank you, Philip. Have a great day, everyone.
Take care.
Bye.